Check things out. All right, so we're live. So this week we're going to learn about model updates and being able to compare and track changes in the model. So a big part. Oh, I thought this was on. And how do you put that? Is it just a? A big part of estimating with BIM is tracking changes, because you're always the design is going to be evolving, especially if you get involved early on with the project. It's going to start in its infancy from a conceptual, maybe just a SketchUp model, and then it's going to start in Revit to be schematic. So not everything will be drawn. There'll be a lot of assumptions made. Then into design development, where you're getting more detail, and then into the construction documents, which you should have almost ready to be able to bid. And all through that process, there's lots of things that will end up changing. And you, as the estimator, that's the biggest thing every time you're providing budgets is what's changed, right? So you don't have to take off everything all over. You just need to find out what changed and then update that in your budget. So Navisworks has a couple tools to be able to help in tracking changes, visualizing changes, and then quantifying the changes. So the first one is just a visual representation of those changes, and that's using the compared models tool. So basically this is what we're going to run through. I just kind of wrote out the instructions, no pictures, but it's a good go-to, very fast and quick. You can be able to follow along. But we have a model here of a building. This is a new building, and so this is in Revit, and this is called V1. So this is our original, we'll call it, and I've already exported this to Navisworks, and so I have here that same model, and I hate to have my grids on, so I go to View and not Show Grids. I'm also going to change my viewpoint to shaded instead of realistic. That way when I take things off or color things, that shows up. So I've got my model, and my workspace is all weird, so I'm going to get to my Navisworks extended workspace. Always resets when I'm on this computer. That helps me to get the windows that I want up. So I've got a model. I can do my takeoffs on this model, but for right now, like I said, we're just going to focus on just being able to visually see what's changed in this model from my V1 to my V2. So I'm going to append in my version 2 model into the same file, right? And so under Home, Append, I'm going to look for, make sure this NWC, sometimes it says NWF, and so nothing's shown, but I want NWC, and I'm going to go to my Revised folder, and here's my V2. And so now that they're right on top of each other, if I hide one of them, you can see they're right on top of each other, right? So if I have them both being shown right on top of it in the same space, I want to know what's changed, because I can't really see right now because it looks like the exterior walls all match. So we're going to use the compare tool, and what we need to do is we have our two models in this selection tree. I click on the first model, which is the original, then I hold down Control, and then I click on the second model. So it's important which one you click first. It's important because you want to stay consistent, because there's some certain colors that will show up, and so if you stay consistent, always doing original first, revise second, then you know your colors are always going to be consistent. That'll make more sense in a second. So now that I've selected them both, I come over under the Home tab, Tools, and Compare. And there's a bunch of options that come up. So what I usually do, and for this purposes of this exercise, I just want to know if the name or the geometry has changed. Okay? But if you notice here, there's type, unique IDs. So if the type changed, so if it was a wall type but changed to a wall sweep type or something like that, then it would flag it. But in this case, I just want to know name and geometry. Properties is one thing. If you want to be able to see if any little tiny part of this changed, I would maybe check properties. Same with the tree. That's basically how it's organized in the tree, right? The selection tree. But I'm going to keep it simple and just go name and geometry. And on here, I want it to save the results as selection sets. I do not want it to save each difference as a set in this case. I don't want to have 100 of these things, so that's the reason. I'm going to remove old results, I'm going to hide matches, and then highlight results. All those will stay checked. Okay? I'm going to hit OK. So now, it hid everything that was the exact same, and it brought up some colors here. Okay? So, I'm going to go to my legend. So everything in white is a matching item. Can you guys see that? Let me turn down the light. Better? And I'm going to put it on this side so you can see. So everything in white is a matching item, so that means no change for those criteria. Everything in red is the item exists in both models, but it's changed in some way. Okay, so either the geometry or the name in this case has changed. Yellow is the first item contains things not found in the second item. So yellow is added things, right? So the first item contains things not found in the second item. So I apologize. So yellow means it's been deleted. Cayenne means it's been added. So if you always check the first one, then the second one, then that's always going to work. Yellow is always going to be deleted things. Cayenne is going to be added things.
So the first one is the updated one, or like
So when you select it. So the first one, since I selected the original, the V1 first.
I select the original one.
Correct.
And then the updated.
And then I did V2, which would be the updated. Yeah. And if, I mean, it's going to work both ways, but like I said, it's nice to keep it, every time you do it, you know, cayenne blue is, oh, that's added, that's added. Yellow's deleted. Red's changed, okay? So, the way that it, so first, you know, this is just kind of big picture. You can see, okay, all my exterior walls basically stay the same. It's good to know. Looks like something changed in my floors. Something, we have an added roof system here, right? Because that's blue, so that means it's in the second but not on the first. And then we have some yellow things here, and then yellow and blue on top of each other, right? So that means yellow, it was deleted, blue was added. So it looks like we had some higher lockers and then it went to lower lockers, right? Same with some walls here, some wall configurations changed around. So now if we want to drill into this a little bit more, we open up our sets. And again, you can go to Home and then Sets, or you can go to View, Windows, and you can also turn on your sets in that way. Mine's docked over here to the left. So I'm going to pin it and get rid of my plan view, that view, that. And so you see here, I've got several different selection sets. Not search sets, remember, selection sets. So these are no longer dynamic. This is just tied to when I ran the compare. So you've got matched for each, the old and the new. And you see when I click on it, it selects everything in that tree. And so I'm going to unhide all so you can see everything. And if I just go ahead and hide the unselected of just, this is my V1 matched. So you can see all this, these white items, that's everything that stayed the same in the first model, right? There's quite a bit, not too much changed. So I'm going to unhide all, and that would obviously be the same basically for the V2 model, right? Because they're matched, so those would all be the same. And now we have the differences. And if I say hide unselected, so those items, something changed in those. This is the version 1 model. So we know we probably either added some penetrations or changed the size of it in some way, or the name of it in some way, and that's what caused it to change. Okay, and then let's go ahead and hide this, and hide this one, hide this one. So if you look, these are on top of each other. You can tell kind of where some things maybe changed a little bit. So it looks like there was a doorway in the one, but not the other now, right? So that's something that changed and caused that whole wall to go red, because now there's an opening, whereas before there wasn't. Okay? So any questions on that real quick? Makes sense, right? So now we'll go jump into the the unmatched items. So I'm just going to show the unmatched that's in the version 1 model. So that means these things were in version 1 but not in version 2. So these were deleted items, right?
Yeah.
So we've got, looks like one of the exterior walls, like we talked about before, all of the lockers looks like they changed. And then these walls were completely deleted. Now just because it's in yellow and it's deleted here doesn't mean, oh, that means there's no wall there anymore, right? Sometimes they could have deleted a wall and then added one back in the exact same place with just a slightly different name. So you got to be careful about that, right? So just because it's yellow or cayenne doesn't mean it's brand new. Like they could have just kind of done a little tricky swap. Does that make sense? So, because for instance, if I unhide now this, so like in the instance of the lockers, they didn't just delete all the lockers, they actually added something back, right? In the same exact place, just a little different size. So it looks like they added this entire roof structure. That wasn't there before at all, and there wasn't anything up there previously. And this wall changed. Looks like they deleted it, but then added back something very similar because it's taking up the same airspace, right? Because you see that kind of changing. So this is part of the kind of analysis part. Navisworks will flag it for you in the way that a computer does well, you know, just based on certain criteria. And you have to come in and see, okay, what does this actually mean? Okay? So I'm going to have you guys practice this. So I'll leave this up on the screen. You have this on the desktop as well, but this is the instructions. And I want you to open up under the Stuart Lang folder. Should be week 9. And there's an original and a revised. Mine looks a little different. Yours is going to look more like this. So open up the NWC version 1 file under the original folder. And I'll leave this up so you guys can follow those instructions. Say cayenne or cyan? Cyan? Just thought about that one. Why am I saying that? Cayenne.
So the ref means it changed, something changed, but it was still in one entry.
Correct. Exactly. So it was just modified, basically.
Okay. Not a big deal.
Could be a big deal. Could be a very big deal. For instance, if you had a roof or a slab that went from 10 square feet to 1,000 square feet, it's the same slab, but just increased in size. That could be a big deal, right? So that's kind of an example, but most likely it's going to be smaller than that. So you notice you have selection sets. Once you click on that selection set, it's selecting everything in the model tree that's associated with that, right? So if you want to, that's why I'm able to hide all those at once or unhide all those. It's just a really slick way of being able to save a certain selection of items. Yeah. When it's selected, everything will. So if you like click on that and find it selected, click here. Blue is your selection color on this. I usually change it to a wireframe pink. So it doesn't. So change your selection to options. Go to the Navisworks button. Here, I'll just show you this. So if you notice, everything's turning blue, so it's kind of confusing. Like, oh, what's this blue color? If you remember, these computers reset every time, but we did this in one of the first classes when we jumped into Navisworks, was changing our selection options. So if I go to the Navisworks button, options, let's see, interface and selection. I'm going to change this, instead of being tinted, I want it to be wireframe and pink, or whatever color you want. But wireframe makes it so the whole thing doesn't turn a color. It just shows the edges. So I hit OK, and now when I select, now it's this pink lines through it. So I know what's selected, but I can still see the color.
So if I want to hide my reds, that's the matched, right? Or if I just want
That's
to keep the reds, I have to hide.
Differences. So matched is white, differences is red, right? And then the unmatched is blue and yellow. So if you wanted to hide everything else, you would click on the two differences. And then hide it. And then you can toggle back and forth between the two.
I want to be the sunny, I have selected, otherwise go about using each one of them properties to know what change.
Sure. So it looks like you're on what phone you're in. I think you're in Canada. So either Control 1 or and then if you click, yeah, that one. So you're at Control 1. So if you notice, see how things are selected in your tree. So you'd have to just click on one of those items. I would probably click on this. That's like that little subpart. That's the part you want. So if you just click on that, then you can see the progress tab. So every time you click something on the selection set, it's going to highlight everything in the corresponding in the selection tree. Are you in? So if you go to shading mode, it's weird. Yeah, sometimes it just kind of goes to shading for you, but sometimes it doesn't. I thought it always did. Nice. And if you want to get rid of those grid lines, if they annoy you, the green and the red grid lines, you can get rid of them by going to View and then Show Grid Lines. There you go. So, I think you guys kind of got the hang of that. So, if, for instance, you had either a larger, more complex model with a ton of changes, which I had recently on a job. I tried to do this and it was just like everything's red and everything's blue and everything's like, this is not even helpful. Sometimes you can drill down just to a subset in the selection tree and compare those, if that makes sense. So instead of doing the entire model to the entire model, I could come in and do just floors to floors, something to that effect, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to unhide all, and I'm going to say I just want to know second floor to second floor. And so I did V1 first, then V2, then I go to compare, and I want to make sure that this is where this remove old results comes in handy. So now that I do another one, it's going to get rid of all this stuff because the colors are going to be possibly different or things like that. And this time I'm going to try, I just want to know if just the geometry changed. So, and then I'm going to save each difference as a set, just to kind of show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'll hit OK. So now we see here, let's make sure that it went back to my viewport, still shaded. Okay, good. So if I look at my matched on the second floor, so first I'm going to select all of these and then say hide unselected. So it looks like the only thing that changed on the second floor is that slab. Is that what that's saying, basically? Say unhide all again. I'm going to look for my two matched. So I don't think it selected anything. So that means nothing's matched. Right? So it still gives me a set, even though it's nothing's selected. That's why I can't hide anything. Differences. It's not giving me anything there. Unmatched. Unmatched. There we go. Second floor. So this is, so first it does those pairs, right? Two matched, two differences, two unmatched. And then because I said do each difference as a set, it's going to show me just those items that changed in geometry. So I can see this one. So I'm going to show both of these. I can see those are the only items that changed on the second floor, apparently, from that level too. Let's do this again and just do the entire thing. First one, second one, compare, geometry, save, each difference is a set, okay. So now this shows you a little bit better. So you still have the two matched, two differences, right, for each model, unmatched. And then if you go down here, it shows all the differences, each difference for each model item as its own selection set. So if I click on one of these and then hit page down, that zooms in to just that item that's selected. So if I gotta find, okay, so it's this floor. So that's saying that that is one of the items that changed. I'll click on this one, page down. You can see it's that same floor. So it's just another way if you want to go a little bit deeper. I usually don't do save each one as a selection set. I like to just kind of see it more at a high level and see all of them grouped together. just hide everything else, or unhide everything else. So, so that, in a nutshell, is the compare tool. So again, visual. It's just visual. We haven't really counted anything. We haven't looked at square footages that have changed or anything like that. That's a good question. I don't know that you can change the default and what it changes to. Because I know when I looked up in the help menu to find out what the colors mean, like it's defined these colors or these things. So I don't know. So a workaround would be, I'm going to get rid of all these, is to override the colors. No. Right. So, no, but that's what we're going to do next. So this is just visual, right? But to answer your question first, well, so you can override the colors for certain items. So, for instance, if you didn't like yellow, which, let's see, if you didn't want this to be yellow, you can highlight those, right-click on one of these items that's selected, and you can say override item. There you go, override color. So I want that to actually be green. So now when I unhide all, and I go through here, I'm going to hide my matched. Control H, it's the same thing as hide. Now it's green and red. It's true. Every time you would have to do that. I don't know how to set the default. I don't know that you can set the default to always be that. Yeah.
So the reason for comparing is to see what's the difference happening between the version 1 and the version 2.
Exactly.
So maybe later on, next one, you're going to do a takeoff or whatever happened different. What happened if your version 2 has a lot of change?
Mm-hmm.
And we want to do, instead, we did the takeoff on the version 1, and we want to do the whatever is different happened in version 2.
Mm-hmm.
So can we like forget about version 1 and do the takeoff for version 2? What's the best way to do is like take the latest version and work with it, or forget, compare it.
Right.
Because it looks like, it's going to be too much information if there's a lot of change between the version 1 and version 2.
Definitely. So I think you kind of hit it on the head there. If it's so many changes, you might be better off just starting over your takeoff basically and redoing it. But like I said, I'm going to show you how you can update the changes from the new model within your takeoff. And I'll admit, the way that quantification in Navisworks right now, it's called Analyze Changes. The way it's set up right now, it's a little bit clunky. It's not quite as slick as I'd like it to be. So that's even one more reason why you might just do it over again from scratch. But
And how is that going to affect? So, for example, your version 1, it was talking about, you did the takeoff, you did the price. When I'm talking about as-built or something happened,
Mhm.
the owner change it. So, how is that going to help, if you're going to forget about the version 1 and do the version 2 as far as,
well, so you do your export, right? So you did your version 1 takeoff, and you exported that to Excel, and then you put that into your estimating software, whether it's Excel or some kind of other software. And so you're you've put in, how many total lineal feet of each wall, yada yada yada. And then you get your updated model, and so you can either update the changes the way I'm about to show you, or do your new takeoff. Either way, you're going to just be exporting out and then dumping that into your estimating software. So either way, you still have to, they're not linked. So I know, like I mentioned before, Autodesk is working on creating a link between Timberline and Navisworks. They've been saying it's coming soon. They said it was going to be out here in December, like a beta test, but I haven't seen it yet. So, and then I think there's some other softwares that are boasting to be able to link soon to another type of interface like this. So, but yeah, so basically you're still going to be exporting out and then plugging that quantity in to your software. But the idea behind this is helping make those updates quicker and to be able to know what changed. So, so why don't we just dive right in then to the analyze changes, and I'm going to have this open on my end. So we'll close this one. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to change, let's see, I'm going to make a folder called working. A work in progress. And I'm going to take my original NWC and I'm going to copy it here. And I'm going to make the name just something generic, or without the identifier on the end. Okay, so I'm going to make my original just UCLA Architectural Model Small. Okay, and I'll tell you, you'll get it why more in a second. So what I'm going to do, open up the NWC. And I'm going to perform some takeoffs. So we'll go to viewpoint, change it to shaded, start my quantification workbook. CSI 48, imperial, change it to cubic yards, just add it, finish. Here's all our WS codes and our CSI codes. So, this is such a small screen. So, we'll got my model here, and I'm going to take off. I'm going to create a selection set. Oh, my find items is already open somewhere.
So the sense is already getting updated like what we did see here, that we export from Revit, the both models, we export to NWC, and then we want to find the sets. So it's going to be already here, or we have to make it out from where they came.
Yeah, so I think your question, so yeah, so you can export sets from Navis and keep them, your go-to sets that you use for every job, looking for walls, looking for something like that. Or But as far as like the way this is broken out into layers, I actually don't like that. So what I'm going to do is, this is back into Revit, and I'm going to export to NWC, my 3D view, and I'm going to make sure that going into levels is not on. Let's do my current view, and I'm going to call it my V1. Point 1. Because then I feel like I don't have to use my search sets as often. I like to keep it clean and work through the model tree, the selection tree, when I do my takeoff. So I'm actually going to close this one, open delete my working one that I had just done, my original. Oh, did I save it in the other one? There it is. The working file. Sorry. Change the name. We get rid of anything that comes after. But so the idea is that you develop your catalog as you go. So you can just import your catalog in, and instead of just being a blank CSI 48 one, you could say browse to my special awesome catalog that has everything set up how I like it. Same with your selection sets, you could have that. But pulling from Revit, it won't. There's nothing you can do from Revit to make your sets show up.
Is there a way that you can show your example
Of what?
of the one that you just said?
About.
Said that,
Gotcha.
so it's, you can see
Sure, I can show that to you. It's on my computer, so I'll do this first.
Is there one that you can just grab from the internet or buy that has all of the items there already and you just keep adding more?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I don't know of, I haven't looked into that, but totally. I mean, there's going to be stuff like that all over. It's just an XML file, right? So if someone has a site that I'm sure people share their catalogs. So let's see, I was changing my mode to shaded. So now it's just in the specific items. So I'm going to come down and let's take off walls. So I'm going to open my item catalog.
So now my question. So the walls you're gonna put in
Yes. Division 9.
somebody like to brick walls.
Division 4.
Um,
Yeah, CME and masonry. So under finishes, Division 9, I'm going to put a group called drywall partition. Let's see. Yeah, drywall. And then I'm going to come into my walls. And it has all the partitions here, right? So I'm going to go through, choose all my walls that are drywall and steel stud. And so for this purpose, I'm actually going to make just, I don't need to have them broken out, I'm going to say. I don't need to know which is my A3 wall and what's my A1 wall. I just want to know what's my overall drywall walls non-rated and then rated. Okay? So I'm going to make a new item under drywall partitions called non-rated wall. And I'm going to change. Yeah, it's recording. And so I'm going to make my primary quantity. We haven't dealt too much with the primary quantity, I don't think. So that basically, you know when you do your export into Excel from Navisworks, it gives you all those columns of the model width and the width, and then at the very end there's one called primary quantity. So this is a way, if you set up your catalog, to be able to have basically one column that you just have to look at, if that makes any sense. So if you know you're only concerned for a drywall partition with the gross square foot, I'm going to make my primary quantity length times height in here in square feet. Now that's different for counting toilet partitions or toilet accessories. My primary quantity is going to be a count, right? I don't need to know what's the volume of a toilet. I need to know how many toilets are there. So if you have one column then, the primary quantity column, that has what am I going to be looking for? What's the item that's important to me? It's all in one place. So that way you can hide all the others, reference it if you need to, but you know, boom, it's all there. So that's another thing when you're setting up a catalog. So I'm going to make this primary quantity for my non-rated wall equal length times height. So you can do either, but because I defined length as equals model length, they're the same. But if I said height equals 6 feet here and just did a hard key, then I could say length times height, and it's always length times 6. So there's like 2 layers of variables there. Okay, so length times height, and then I have to put a unit equals square feet. Okay, I'm going to do one more. I'm actually just going to copy this. So copy, and then click on the group I want it to paste it to. Paste. I'm going to change this one to 1 hour rated wall. I did that because I didn't want to have to do my formula again, because it's going to be the exact same. And then I'm also going to come up here into CMU and do a new item called CMU wall, and I'm going to delete that. I'm just going to copy this up there, paste CMU wall. I have to redo my formula, and so now I have 3 items that I'm going to do most all of my walls. Okay, so I've selected now my non-rated partitions, and if I click on non-rated, I can take off it 2 ways, right? I can right click here, quantification, take off the non-rated wall, or I can click, since I've already selected my walls, right click here. Oh, sorry, I have to go into my workbook. What's that? Yeah, so once you make it in your catalog, it shows up in your workbook. Is that what you mean? Yeah. So non-rated, take off selected mono items. So now instead of having all these different groups because they're all different names, I don't care. I just want it all in one. So now I have some 1 hour rated, and I'm going to take those off to the 1 hour rated. Looks like I have a 2 hour, so I'm going to copy this. Paste. 2 hour rated. Same thing. And we got a 45. For the sake of this, I'm not going to keep making new ones, but I'm just going to put that with my non-rated. Take off. I'm just going to kind of go through the list, right? So I don't miss anything. I'm just going to go one by one, make sure I get everything in there. So here's a CMU wall. So I just click on my CMU, take off. Now I've got partitions, smoke rated. Again, I really only care if it's 1 hour and 2 hour rated. CMU. I could also drag this into it if I wanted. 2 hour. Okay, there's a lot of walls, aren't there? So let's go through. Let's do it more quickly. I'm gonna just. It's all non-rated. Looks like I already took off some, so I said don't do those. CMU. Did that. Okay, last wall. So now I have all my takeoffs for my walls. And if I click on an item here, you can see, if I click page down now, since I selected that item, it's going to zoom in to where that wall is. So, and you notice that it shaded things. I could say show takeoff. So everything else now should be hidden that I didn't take off. Hide takeoff, so you can see all the things that are still there. So that's interesting. Looks like I forgot this one. The very first 8-inch CMU. So again, that's another way to kind of check visually, like, oh, I forgot one. So just by using the hide takeoff button. So now we just got a bunch of floors and windows. Looks like there's still some walls here, aren't there? Oh, those are doors. Okay. So now I get an update of the model. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping first, though. There's a setting that we need to change to make this a little easier. So if we go under the Navisworks button, Options, I believe it's under Model and Performance. I want to check this box that says Close NWC, and this will be written down in the instructions as well. But close NWC NWD files on load. I'm going to check that. Okay? So basically that means, you know how Navis works with an NWF? Whenever you save a takeoff, it's always an NWF. You can't save an NWC. So the NWF is reading your NWC, right? So what this does, it basically just lets you, once you load it, it just creates like a temporary file there, and you could change that, you could close that, you could move it to another location, and you wouldn't mess up what's on your screen. So that's important because, so now I got my new version of my model. I'm going to come here to my working. I'm going to change the name of this to something so I know what it was. Original, we'll call it. Oh, I think I have to close Navis before the setting works. So that's annoying. So I'm going to save my NWF first in my working. Just close it, just for the sake to make sure that this works. And then now it should be everything exactly as it was. So now I'm going to change the name of this while it's still open to original. I'm going to come to my revised model, copy it into my working file, but name it the same as what I originally had. So that's the reason why I changed it to no part at the end of the file name to begin with, because it needs to match whatever it was. So like I said, it's a little clunky, but that's the way that this works. So the idea would be if you got an updated model, it would just be named the exact same thing. You pull it into the new place, overwrite it. I like to keep a paper trail, an electronic paper trail of what that old model was. So I've dropped that in here. Now I'm still in my same takeoff, and I'm going to refresh. Under Home, Refresh. Basically that means look again for that same NWC file that you opened to begin with. So it just refreshed it, and there are no changes. And it says that there's no changes. So either those walls that I took off did not change, which I know is not the case. I think you're right. I should have taken off some floors. We can work backwards, so we can change it back to that one. So let's take off the floors then. And so we can take off our floor, and in this case it's going to be under concrete. Make a new item called slab 4-inch. To make my primary quantity equal area. Square feet. Control C, Control V, and then Control C, Control V, I'm just going to say other. So, do a quick takeoff of these. 4-inch slab, take off, 12-inch, take off, other, take off. I'm going to switch backwards again, and let's see if this works. So I'm going to change that to V2. Remember, because it thinks I opened a file called just UCLA Architectural Small. Come here, I'm going to refresh. Oh, you know what? I know what I didn't do. I just skipped a step. So now that I've gone back to this, I'm going to come here, and I skipped the most important part to actually analyze changes. So we come here and we say change analysis. So to the far right of the quantification workbook. So I click it and say analyze changes. And so now we see here that we've got some little icons. So that means something changed. Okay? So really it should be only these things because this is what I did from the other model. So it's just going to be my slabs in this case. Yes? Can you guys see that? Sorry. It's a big screen your way, huh? So I know something changed in my 4-inch slab, so if I come over here to my detail and I hover over this, it says has change values. So on my floor, looks like you can see, and it flags it for you, something changed here. So you can scroll down, and the way it works is you kind of have to go item by item. So in this case, I'm going to click on this, and then I can zoom into it if I wanted. I'm going to hit page down once I click on it. I'm going to zoom in, and I can see it's that entire floor. So something changed in that value. It was at an area, my primary quantity is 4933. So I'm going to click on this, right click, select the entire row, and then right click and say update from model. Now you see it changed. It looks like it was just in the hundreds, so it wasn't a huge change. And you can go through and do that to all the different items. Page down, and it zooms. So I'm going to highlight both of these, right click, select row, right click, and let's see, if you right click, so takeoff model item was deleted. So these no longer exist in the model. It was in the other, but now it's not here. So the takeoff is still here, so you could just delete then. Because under here, when I hover over this, it says that it was deleted. Yeah. So I'm going to delete the takeoff. And so I can sort by the status, right? So all of these with something that happened. So item was deleted, item was deleted. So looks like there were a few floor pieces that were just straight up deleted. So I right click, I have to select the entire row, and instead of right clicking I could also say up here update. I can't update because they're deleted, right? So delete the takeoff. So pros and cons, and let's go ahead and switch over one more time and do the walls, just because I feel silly that I missed that the last time. So again, I'll show you the process. So I'm going to change the name of this back to V1, change this just to regular name, right click and say refresh, and I'm going to come over and say analyze changes. There we go. Oh, it shows up here. So my 1 hour rated wall, it looks like my 2 hour rated walls didn't change at all, so that's good to know. And so come here, my 1 hour, I'm going to sort by status. If I hover over this, it looks like it just changed value, right? So I can look and see which values changed. Looks like it's the volume and the area. So if I click on these three, select row, update from model, now I've got my updated quantity. If I wanted to, I could put a comment before on all these and say changed. Let's see. Uh-huh.
So the change there.
Yeah, where's my description on this? But that's on the overall. I need it down. I must have turned it off. So you can always choose which columns you want hidden by right-clicking and saying choose columns. So I want to show my description one. So now for those items I could say changed 3.5, right? And then I could fill down. Sorry, yes, Mark.
So the changes are showing the version 2. Wait. When we're exporting to Excel,
Right.
we're showing that volume or length or whatever it is the difference between the 1 and 2, or it's the new. And what if it's a negative? What if it's something removed from the model?
So it'll say on the right over here, it'll say deleted.
Okay.
So this item has been deleted. And so in your takeoff, it's still going to show all your same values. And so that's why you want to check all of these and say, oh, deleted items, I can either make a note, say it's deleted, and leave it in, or just delete those takeoff items because they've been deleted from the model. So in my experience, this works really well for going through each change. It forces you to go through and look at each change because you have to, I can't just globally say update model all for my takeoff. I have to go through at least each type. So in one sense, that's super annoying to me because it takes more time. But in the other sense, it's good because it forces you to go through and you know exactly what's changed a lot better. Yes?
So
Jane?
this is your personal way to do the change. It's not the software design, right?
So the way I'm doing it right now is the way they've designed it.
The design, you change the name so to do the compare.
Oh, that part. Yeah, I guess that's a little bit of my, just the way I do it, I guess.
So
You need to have the same file name. Yeah, it just needs to have the same file name. So if it was V1, I would need to change the V2 to name V1. And so that's confusing to me. So that's why I put it just the generic name. And then, I'll change the V2 to just the generic name.
Maybe I'm too, because I think what about there is the same name NWC in another folder. They both have the same name, so which of the NWF will recognize?
It goes by file tree. So if it's looking in this folder, so right now it's looking in my working folder. So there can't be two files of the same name in the same folder.
So it was searching for the same folder.
Correct.
Okay,
I have a general question.
Yeah.
In the field, like, do you use Navisworks in your work?
I do.
So if you have like small change orders, so do you need to change it even as well? In Navisworks? Or this change order was like before we start to extract the project
Right.
to give you like a good view and to make sense to the other engineers and subcontractors, like what's the new models can be.
Yeah, so the purpose, I think, so you're kind of saying like, why do we need to do this? Is that kind of what you're getting
Yeah,
at?
it's kind of like that. If we have like, if you got a change orders
Okay.
through the project.
Gotcha. So after construction
Yeah,
started.
Construction and a lot of and a lot of change orders.
Totally.
always.
Yeah. RFI responses that come back and
To
maybe.
update the original design.
So that kind of depends. I'm only on the estimating side. I haven't been involved as like on the other side as much by using the BIM. So I know they have their coordination meetings to look for clashes and things like that. But as far as tracking changes, you'll always, bulletins, they call it, will come out. Before you bid, it's called an addendum that comes out, right? So if you're bidding something, addendum 1 comes out, it changes a bunch of things, new sheets. But after the bid, they call it a bulletin. So same idea, you put RFIs in, they need to update drawings or the model, and they send out a bulletin. And the situation where I would use this would be, I'm a project engineer, I just got a new bulletin from the architect, and it's for something with structural CMU veneer, and we've already got the foundations poured, and I want to know, what do they change here? And so if I wanted to be able to count that or visualize that quickly, I would use Navisworks. Or you can look at the plans as well, right? So it's just another tool to quantify and visualize what the changes are. Yeah, Mark.
And piggybacking on what Paul said, and I was going to ask was, can you use this in any way to do your the shop drawing that you attach to plan the as-bills? Is there something here you would use for the as-bills or no?
Like if you were giving a electronic as-built, you mean like a model as-built?
Well, you have to give the owner not only
Right.
you have to give them all the changes that are made. So whether it's a change order or
Right, exactly.
or if something didn't come out or whatever it
Right.
was, you give them those changes. So.
So what you could do, is do some snapshots of this, I guess. Is that kind of what you're saying? So yeah, if we use the compare.
For instance, like what's the new change orders?
Right.
Gonna be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could use this if you use the compare tool, so it had the colors, right? You could
And then if they have any adjustments
you could do a screenshot of this, and then mark it up and say this was not here. So you can draw. So I have to save a viewpoint first. But a lot of times they're redlined, right? So they're clouded, or saying that per addendum 1 cloud this was changed. So this could be something, another layer. But yeah, you're right. Usually it's just they have the set of plans. Again, the contract documents is the 2D plans. It's still the way it is. And so that's what you're going to deliver. This is kind of just things that augment your understanding. Maybe get you to understand it quicker.
I think if you are using like a 3D model in Revit, and you are building it, doing the estimating at the end of the project, we will update the model.
Right.
For whoever is the Revit specific coordinator, I don't know what the name of the Revit person.
Your bin guy.
Yeah, that's the person that is supposed to update the model and give it to the owner because it's going to use it for the maintenance operations and everything. So it has to be like accurate. Yes, happen on the project.
Right.
I mean, you are using the model through the whole construction,
Yeah.
not just for estimating.
Exactly. So yeah, so that's true, and a lot of owners are now more asking for that, to have the finished model at the end, because it's exactly what it was built to, right? So you can see, if you hover over here, I forgot to mention, but if you hover over each cell that changed, it'll tell you what the old and the new is, and the difference right there, right? And I haven't found a way for it to automatically give you, like when you export it, the delta column. So that's why I feel like it's a little clunky. I think it's going to get better. Like the next version should have that. But right now, it just visually tells you, and then you just have to update it, and then that's all you see now is just the new value. So if you exported your original takeoff and you export your new takeoff, you can get the difference. You know, you're plugging it into your estimating software anyways, and so it just gets plugged in there.
You have big projects, you gotta be
Yeah, totally. But there are some other software like Vico. I remember you read about Vico. It has a pretty cool change analysis module that looks pretty slick. We tried it out a little bit. It works really well for simple models, but it was still a little clunky with big complex models, so similar. But so that, in a nutshell, is the change analysis module part of Navisworks. Yeah.
Can you do the same thing with 2D models? With the, like, okay, we are still getting, just looking at just about everything is a PDF plans.
Yeah. So if you did it with if you imported PDFs and did markups, it wouldn't be able to do any change analysis because it's not selecting any geometry or items. You're just kind of coloring on top of nothing. But if it was a DWF and you linked up the 3D versus the 2D and you did takeoffs on there, yeah, it would totally pick up those changes.
So I read the article. There is only about 34% architecture company use a BIM software. So I'm thinking, in fact, most times in this industry, we still do the 2D takeoff, right?
Definitely. That's still the majority of what I do is from 2D plans.
So you are doing 2D plans a lot.
Correct. And so anytime I get my hands on a model, though, I jump on it and utilize. I'm asking for, hey, do you have a model? Because sometimes they just won't. They have it, but they don't share it for whatever reason, whether they don't want to or they just didn't think about it. So, oh yeah, sure, we'll give you the model. Now, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, everyone was very tight-lipped and protective about their models. Like you had to sign non-disclosure agreements. You had to basically sell your unborn child to be able to get the Revit model to do some takeoffs on, to be able to look around. Because I think everyone was thinking, you know, it's proprietary and so much work went into it. We don't just want to give it away and have people copy it or something. But now people, they're sharing their models way more freely. And so the information sharing is much better in that regard.
You were, how you said you can do a takeoff of the original version and take off of the second version
Uh-huh.
and then go into Excel. Can you combine both files and do like a what-if function, like if those values remain the same, show instead of going through each change? Is that possible? Like if the
Well, it
change-
kind of sounds like doing a comparison, right? Because it flags what's changed and what's added and what's deleted.
Mhm.
And then,
Because I'm getting like
uh-huh.
don't want to watch your videos.
I think we can do it in Excel instead of doing it in Navisworks.
Yeah, because if you're going to get exactly the same thing and you'll notice some differences. So, like, if this remains the same, then you could not take the changes and update it like that. I'm not very comfortable with what-if functions, but I've seen, like, some of the spreadsheets at work, and
Yeah.
if this is the same, then leave if not adjust. So,
Mhm.
can you do that? Or do you do that?
So that's
In
so.
Excel.
Oh, in Excel, yeah.
Yeah.
So you would just. So what I would do is when you export your.
Like export the takeoff from the version 1, export the takeoff from version 2, and then compare it with the if function and see what the difference is instead of going through every single
So you're saying you would just do a complete takeoff on the original, and do a brand new complete takeoff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, totally. And that's what I was saying. If there's so many changes, then that's probably going to be the quicker and more efficient way to do it.
Okay.
And then yeah, you could set up a. I was going to show you. Where is an example of some exports?
I'm thinking that when you're doing the first one and the second one, then you just jump into the prime part, the quality that you're talking about, and then you can just compare two to columns and that's it.
Yeah.
And then just focus what the difference and you start columns and just flat.
And the key behind that though is having your catalog set up. Because if those are changing, then it's not so easy. But if it's always the same items, and if you use, I'm a little bit on the fence as do I set up an entire catalog all laid out real nice, exactly very detailed, or do you go more and just kind of do from scratch each time because every model's so different? I lean a little more towards just doing it from scratch each time. And but one of the benefits of having it set up is you could do some really cool functions in Excel because this item name is always going to be the same, right? And so you could say if this equals this, yada yada. You could do VLOOKUPs. You could do a lot of stuff. You could keep it pretty slick. For database items, when it's linked to Timberline, you would need to have something set up where your items are already defined. You're just taking off to those. For me, it's like, oh, but then you got to drag it into each wide flange beam, like every size. So there's pluses and minuses to going super detailed in your catalog as opposed to not as detailed.
So how would you set up with each one? Like on the homework, you have a link here, CSI master format code. Like what if I want to set up that catalog for every single takeoff I do, and then just select them from, and then cut, like just manually input the item in there. for
Yes.
each division, and then how do you save it?
So you, once you get your catalog set up how you want it, you can, in the top right here, let's see, oh, it's in the workbook. You can export just the catalog. Right here,
And
as
the XML.
XML.
And then you can export just the catalog.
Yeah, that wouldn't have any of the values or anything. It's just groups and items with no takeoffs associated. So it's your hierarchy. So the way, once you get it how you like it, if that's the way you want to do it, is have kind of a standard go-to, which I think there's a lot of value to.
Because then you can just open it and then you can tweak it a little bit if there's something that
Exactly.
you find and you just add it to that particular division.
I mean, you don't use it, you can always
So
keep it.
We have to match with the scheduling people because this one is a scheduling software as well.
Yeah, using Timeliner.
So now the finishing activity, the finishing activities, usually we do painting, tiles, works, some fixtures, like, so we put it as a separate activity in every pieces.
Right.
While here we put now walls, so it's kind of confusing. Like when you have any conference, you want to explain something, so the scheduling people they get like a little confused. It's finishing, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so you could set one up that's more geared towards a timeliner and a scheduling.
yeah. So
You have multiple catalogs, right? Just like you have multiple workspaces, you can customize it, and so again, it's just all so you can call on it. You did all the work already once, why not be able to use it again, kind of a thing. Totally. I can let you guys take a break, and then we can come back, and then you guys are going to jump into this and try it. I'm going to pause. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I dropped a new version of those NWC files, so it's not broken up into levels, and I put it on my drive for you guys. So use the version 1.1 and 2.1. Use those ones instead of just the version 1. And that'll be not broken up by levels. But I want you guys to work through this workflow. So here I'll put the instructions up, but we're going to do the analyze changes just like I just kind of went through with you guys. So you'll do a takeoff on the original, and then you'll change the name, bring in the new file, update changes, refresh, and then you'll go through and make the changes for each line item. So I've left it up to you how you want to do your takeoff on this part, on this in-class exercise. You can either if you want to just drop the entire model tree in and then run your analyze changes, or you could do some special setup of some items, some custom items. So I'll leave that up to you. I just want you to get the concept of change analysis.
Is this in the homework file or in the...
This is
which one?
not the homework file. So it'll be in the original and the revised and then that Word document. But I've got it up here if you want to just look at it. Because I know you only got so much screen real estate.
Yeah.
Can you even read that? Is it still a little fuzzy? It is a little bit, right?
That's worse. No, that's... one or two? Two or three?
I don't know if that's any better or not. All right, so go ahead and open up the version 1. Well, actually, first, per these instructions, make sure you name it to just no version 1 at the end. And you'll need to copy it down onto your Z drive somewhere, because if people start changing the file names of the same one, it's going to mess everyone up. So copy down that entire folder, week 9. Copy it down either to your desktop or somewhere on your Z drive. You can make a new working folder if you want. Correct. The only difference is I made the 1.1 it's not split up into levels. The other one is. So, in this case, I prefer not to have it into levels. Isn't there a reading? Is that better?
Yeah.
So we need to open the file first, do the takeoff, and then...
So first name it so take away the version 1.1, then open the file.
So I should use 1.1 and 2.2.
Correct. And I would probably, like I did, I made a working folder, so I didn't have to. I just made a copy of it down, so I kept my paper trail. Does that make sense? So my revised folder and my original folder, I don't want to change those, so I'm just going to make copies of the version 1.1 model into my working folder, change the name to just architectural model small, take off the 1.1, run it, do my take off, then copy in my 2.1, change the name. Then I have a paper trail. But to each their own. My way isn't always this way or the way that you would like to do things. So.
So what's the first step?
Come on, Omar.
The whole line is
Come on.
Wait. So then you create a, okay, you copy week 9 into the desktop.
Can
Then
you do
I
it?
create,
Can you synchronize?
wait, hold on. Let me see
Yes.
if I got it.
Okay, you're doing good.
Okay, so copy week 9, and then I put working file LC, and then I go to original version 1.1, paste it into the working LC, then 2.1, paste it into the working LC, then rename in working LC folder 1.1 into small, open that one, and then,
Yeah.
see, I got it.
Yeah,
You're right in Spain.
totally got it.
So, like, do.
Hey, can you repeat that?
Okay.
Could you
New
write down, please?
folder, then I put working alone.
Okay, so what about the second, this one? 2.1, it's been a mistake.
You have to copy all of week into some,
I copied this one.
and then go
So
to
you said you
original.
could pull the whole tree into the quantification workbook, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
it won't automatically land in all the CSI.
No.
Leave it into working
No.
open.
So I would open up as none on the catalog,
And then go to
unless you already did. It doesn't matter. You could delete them, whatever. But I just drag the whole thing in, and then it has its own structure. Yeah. It'd be sweet, huh?
Yeah.
If it,
It would, especially since it's sometimes a little fussy about being pulled over anyway.
now.
Yeah.
What about the 2.1?
And then open.
How do we have a small?
Did I make this? Did I make that really confusing?
Yeah.
Should I have just made the folders for you? That would have been, I guess, better. But
And the takeoffs part.
that would be nice, huh?
Well, because you're doing it in his working folder.
Oh, okay, so I mean, three folder.
Well, I would do your own working folder into his working folder.
Yeah, because I see somebody made some copies here.
Somebody have like a door in front of the front landing. Landing door.
Okay, so 1.1 delete and then just leave it as small.
Correct.
And then open that.
Correct.
And then close.
Oh, yeah. I see that. You're right. Yeah. What is that, a door? Recess, what does it say? It says recess paper. What's that thing?
Right click and say set selection to first object. Right click on
Put
object,
working and
first object. Now click on it.
and this is the one you're working on.
Right to
So then you're trying to know
That's it, right.
copy this.
Go to Revit type. Or the name, if you go all the way to the left, the name
Just a quick look since we were talking about
Oh,
it. Looks
yeah.
like a door, yeah. Oh, where's my selection? Oh, there's my selection. Ah, there we go.
And then
So,
so
yeah,
it's hard to.
that's interesting. All right, let's just do big.
So once I open the original version, then I have to append 2.1 in it.
Plus, no.
Nope. Can you hear that? No, Elsie.
What
No,
was your question?
so you need to change the file name. Make sure there's only one file that had whatever that original one made it.
The 1.1.
Right. Well, no,
Yes.
no. This
What?
is just the small. So you changed. So did you already do your takeoff? So the first step after you open it is to do your takeoff.
Okay, so I did this.
So you have it working. You
And
got
then, and this is 1.1.
that's 1.1, but you renamed it. Good.
So then I opened it.
Open it. Now you run your takeoff. So you can either pick a few items. We know that the floor has changed in this, and also the walls. So those are some good ones if you want to just really show what changed. Or you can take off the entire thing.
Okay, and then I'm going to be saying something there to refresh.
Yeah, so that's after you do your takeoff. We're just jumping ahead.
Okay.
So now open up your quantification workbook, and it should be down at the bottom. You can pin it so it doesn't keep disappearing. And then you can start it, and if you want to have none on your catalog, you can. Make your own, or you can do 48, drag each one to where they go.
Okay.
Do your takeoff.
If I choose the none, then I can put everything, the whole model in there and then see what everything changed.
Yep. And then you can just drag the whole thing right into your workbook. What's that called? What's that method called?
Right.
The dump. Way to go. That's the dump. Good for some things.
What if I already chose 48 and I wanted to put none?
You could just go right into the catalog, the item catalog, and delete all of those items. So you click on the first one, hold down Shift, click the last one, just delete them. You have to do that from the catalog, not the workbook. That's the dump.
Wow. Page down.
Yeah. Serious. I use that all the time. I didn't realize it till just like it was a month. Yeah, just like I was reading through something. Oh wow, that's awesome. Totally.
Because you need to look about what it is.
Yeah. Where the heck is that? So instead of scrolling in and trying to find it, just like boom, it's there. Yep, page down. Oh yeah, when you change that first setting, you know, to close upon open, you have to restart Navis in order for that to work, unfortunately. Or you, without changing that, if you didn't want to change any of the settings, you could just close Navis, change the file name, reopen that set file, and then refresh. Probably wouldn't even need to refresh because when it opens, it rereads. If that made any sense.
No. So, okay, so I'm getting ready to go to the second file.
Okay.
You're saying, don't close something?
So first we change the settings, right, so that we can close on, so if you go to Navisworks button, options, and then performance, okay, if you scroll down, it's already set. So, okay, good. So have you closed it and opened it since you did that?
No.
Okay, so then we're going to have to save your file as a set, which is the only way you can save it. So just hit save.
Just a save.
Yeah, just hit save.
Okay, where's it saved to?
It'll ask you that.
Oh,
So now we'll say, we'll put this probably in your working file. Oh, that's fine. You could do it in the original, it doesn't matter.
Is this okay? Is this working file?
Yep. And then now you'll have to close this. And then go ahead and open that set file again. Wherever you saved it, which I think is in working. So, yeah, the bottom one is a NWF. Don't click that. And it's just reading whatever that file is. So you'll have this open, and now you'll go in and change.
The other one.
Yeah, so change the one that's in there right now to V1.
Oh, wait. Okay. This is where like.
Or you could even just delete it. I mean, it doesn't matter. As long as there's only one file, the new file that has that same name. If you have it copied somewhere else, you can just delete it out of your working folder.
Okay.
So let's go to your working. So you can just ignore all. So you can either delete that NWC, and NWF you want to keep the same. So the top,
Right now we just did.
not the bottom.
Yeah.
There.
Open and original.
So you can delete that.
Really.
Now you can now drop in. Make a copy of it.
It's working.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Now just take off the one. It looks exactly like the other one.
This works.
Then you'll jump back into your Navis and hit refresh.
Oh, we can press. We're not ending. We're not doing anything.
You're just playing a trick on it. You're saying, okay, check that again. You know? And
And
it's,
then it'll still do a compare.
and now you have to run change analysis. So it refreshed, and so the takeoff is not flagged at all yet. And then you hit the change analysis.
I'm confused on with your current takeoff open part.
Yeah, so you
So
don't.
I did my dump one,
Uh huh.
and then I have to rename it something else. So how do I?
So basically, you just need to swap places with whatever that NWC file is. Right now, it's the version 1. you need to have version 2.1 in the same place. Same. So if you go to, so you've copied this,
I
right?
had the 1.1 and 2.1, and then I took off 1.1.
Perfect.
And I opened it, and then I did my thumb kickoff.
Good.
And now.
So now go to, did you already change the settings where you can close?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And
Or,
you closed it since you've done that?
no.
Okay, so you'll have to close, you want to save first. I would have asked you if you closed. Yeah, save. And then, yeah, continue working, that's good.
Did we just save it as that?
And close. And now you could do it when you open it, or you could do it now, but you need to change the name of your original NWC and make it different, so you can add the V1.1 back. You could also just delete it because you have a copy of it in your original thing.
So now you're gonna rename it.
So just add something at the end that says the original or version 1.1.
Okay.
Now rename your 2.1 to what the original one was, so take off the main 2.1. So it thinks it's just that same font.
But now, when I mean, nothing happened really when I hit refresh, and when I go into it, there's nothing.
Did you run change analysis yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And
don't know if you
So
heard.
once I pick the wrong items, which is certainly possible, I think somebody else got screwed up.
yeah, possibly none of those walls changed that you chose.
Okay, then I'm done.
That could totally be it.
Okay, no more estimating to do.
Okay, so,
So you could try pulling at the floors. I know the concrete floors; those definitely changed, right? Okay.
Thought I did.
Possible.
okay, so, okay.
So ignore all.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
I'm still trying to understand this process. So, okay, my 1.1, I took off the name and I just made it small. I opened it, I did my takeoff, I saved it and renamed it version 1.1 again.
Right.
And then now I go to 2.1, I delete it, and then I'm opening version 2.1 but without the 2.1. Then I'm gonna do a takeoff on that and then rename it to
No, you don't have to redo a takeoff.
Okay, I'm lost.
So you're good. You're good up to that last part. You don't need to redo
Who's on
anything. This is the
first?
part where Navisworks does it for you. So now you just, so your set is open, right?
So, okay.
The NWF. So remember, the NWF is the set file that's looking for an NWC. It doesn't have any model content in NWF. It's just reading the model, which is the NWC. So your set file just has your takeoff information and all the links.
Okay.
So now you open up that original takeoff you did, which is the NWF.
This one.
And it's going to refresh automatically because every time you open it, it's kind of refreshing. If you hadn't closed it, and if you had that setting already checked, all you need to do now after you change the name is just hit refresh. So it already, it now looked for the same items because it thinks it's that same name, but really it's loading up version 2 because we changed the name. It's a little confusing, but so now.
Oh, okay. So you had to change the name to the same as the NWF in order to open it, the 2.1.
Exactly. So
Okay.
now it's looking for, it knows to look in this folder for this name file.
Got it.
And we just changed the actual, we did everything the same there, except we know that that model is different. The name and the location is the exact same, so it's going to pull that same thing. So then when you refresh it, which you just do it just for clicks and go over there, it already kind of opened and refreshed itself. But if it was already open, you would refresh. Then you run change analysis and say analyze changes. It's going to look and say what's different. So now you see you've got an eye. You go down and you see all the things that changed. And you just kind of drill down and click on one. either click on it and then hit page down, and it'll zoom to it and look at it. You might have to order it around because it's very long. Or you can say hide items, whatever. But you can look at it each one by one.
Okay, so what if I don't want to look at it?
So then,
It's making it very uncomfortable.
so the second paragraph on the right side.
Okay, thank you.
The first time when we use the NWS,
We've always been using NWS. Every time you do a takeoff and you save it, it always saves it in NWS.
what about scheduling? Linear scheduling is always on NWS or is it different?
I believe it's also NWS. Same idea, like it's just referencing a model, and this is all like the links and data to do that. So if you hit home, that little house. Say unhide all. The house again. So what did you? Oh, because it's looking for the same name file. It's pointing out there.
So this is what I did.
Okay.
Yeah, like with application and then I say video version 1.1.
Now you need to change that one.
Top.
No, the top one.
What's up?
Change the name
You got
to
it?
just
So same with it.
no the top.
So
Two. You already did one, right? Then you changed the name.
This is the 1.2. No, actually,
Correct. So now change.
Change the name of the title.
I did.
So when you originally take off, file was
No, then you
1.1, but it
if
didn't.
file open, then you can change it.
So now change the 2.1.
Oh,
to
you-
The same with the current pickup of the file.
Right. Yeah.
Take away the 2. However you
Or
did
are
your
you changing the whole thing or
needs
just
to
going
match
in
whatever the original.
changing the link?
Yes, changing this is
Now
the file
open up
that
your
is
NWF.
So right.
Create your name and just put a one.
I might have had an extra space in the sales like that last time. Resave.
if something was familiar with this word,
No, I get it.
want to update.
I would, you can't update, you have to
I mean, usually we can
delete that
rename any
takeoff.
file if the file is on
Yeah,
right?
usually.
I think you had an extra
So I
space
don't know
on your file browser.
why ours isn't doing that and yours is. I mean, like, yeah, it makes sense.
I was thinking about closing it and then things.
Right,
Right.
but no.
Say,
Yeah, because you're gonna, because if you do that, you can't refresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might be doing something.
I don't know if you were or if it's just one of those quirky things that sometimes comes up, you know?
Now we'll make the NWF.
Refresh the laws. Okay, refresh.
The key is you just need to change the NWC file. It has to be the same name. Both times.
Oh, that's interesting.
Is that, it's a little confusing, right? It's a little funky, but you,
So just
go ahead.
Look at that, it's just
You want me to
gone.
explain it or you want me to do that?
Wow.
You
That's all right.
should explain it,
So,
that way you know you're
I will explain.
Explain to me.
So this is
This is, okay, that's twice now I've tried it.
to compare.
Okay, we're gonna start over again. Thank you. This is easy to start over.
So this one, the new one, it was before, the 2.1, and this one 1.1. We all
That's the set file. So
Now this
forget about that.
This
The top two.
Yeah, this one, both of them was a WF or a WC.
NWC.
Both of them. Correct. So this one, and then we do the notification and everything. Then we save it.
First, you change the name of the first one so it didn't have one.
Oh, yeah.
Think of it as your current.
Oh,
You could even put the word current on there.
okay.
Yeah.
And then
Then you do your quantification.
I do notification and I save it as a
version 1.1.
Well, you saved it as a set file.
This one.
And then we
And then we go, oh, okay.
Yeah. So anytime you do quantification, in order to save it, it has to be in an NWF. And it reads your NWC file, so you always have to. Okay.
And then the new one, which was 1.1, I will match it with the new one.
The old one.
The old one.
And because you can't have two files of the same name in one folder, that's why we changed this back to one. So we can keep it there. And really, you could have just deleted this too. Just deleted the old one.
That's fine. I can delete it.
Yeah.
I don't need it anymore.
Yeah. Because, and also because you copied it from your original folder, so you have to keep it. So then you bring in your 2.1, change the name to whatever the name was when you set
Now
up.
this is the picture. And then this is the, first one.
So the model is the new one, but your quantification is still the first one. And it's like that until you run the analyze changes.
And then
So now if you pull up your workbook, it's the analyze changes. Now it did it, so you see all those little blue dots? That means something changed.
here are the differences.
And then you drill down, you have to click on the subgroups until you get to an item. And there's an individual change. Now we're over that, we'll see the folder numbers. No, it's,
So I'm just going to the
so
other
if you go over
ones
here to the model area,
Sure.
so
I'm
that's
just
what
going
you,
to
that's
other
the
ones.
new
There's a bunch of
area.
folders.
And this is the old.
No, that just didn't, so
Ah,
that,
but
they,
the
those
model
both
is
changed.
kinda
Yeah.
cool.
Why you changed the model area?
Yeah,
Area didn't change yet, because that's a calculated value.
that's kind of cool.
It hasn't updated yet.
So this, we didn't need to drag each one like this. So we had all the changes.
Exactly.
So that we didn't
Take
drag each one.
Correct, yeah.
But now,
So it's however you do your takeoff. So if you do the dump, if you do the dump method, that's the
The dump
easiest way to
yeah, the
get
dump
everything in.
method.
But it's, you're relying on the architect's organization sense,
Yeah.
which sometimes things are categorized decently. So that's why it's better to do a detailed, you know. But yeah, in this case, we just want to know what changed. So now, the second paragraph on the right, you select the row of the item that's changed. So if you hover over that, over that little, just hover over it. So it said it changed values. So if you click anywhere on that row, which you already did, now right click, say select row. You have to select the row where you make the changes. And now right click again, and say update from model. So now it updated. So you see that value changed.
Also,
So actually the other flagged one was the old value.
what the
I misspoke.
old, yeah.
So now it updated to the new value.
So now it's in.
So it's, if nothing's changed until you hit update.
What about the legal?
You have to delete it. Because you can't update from model, it won't be anything.
What is this the new one? What is the old one?
It's been overridden.
That is, that's it. It's all overridden.
It's not, it's been overridden.
Oh, it's
So
overridden.
it's still there, it just pulled the new one in its place.
But I can't get it.
Correct. Because you're not written.
But still this one, to show you things like this.
So if you sort by status. There, see how. So there's one more. So that's sorting by anything that has changed.
Yeah.
So you can group them all together and then chain them all at once. So you want to, looks like that's another one that changed value. So you notice that was 134.241. Right click on it, select oh, oops, because that's select all those. But I guess
Yeah.
that works too. item by item, because you could select multiple rows within one item. But yes,
And that's it.
correct. And then you would export.
Yeah, well, export it.
Yes.
Here I did the shake overlay.
Homework and
Now I select the file, open, change the name of the file.
Right.
This is the one we have open. Change the meaning of the guy. Like this is what I know.
Did you change the settings in Navis to allow that? So that first paragraph, make sure you do that first paragraph. Let me, God, I gotta get this.